You know, Poes are getting harder and harder to spot these days, so if it wasn't for the Huffington Post advert on the side, I might have considered this an absurd satire. As it happens, no such luck.
Being a real man means being tough, strong, and definitely not girly or sensitive.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm paying extra attention to what he has to say because he's an angry-looking black man in a white vest, which means he's been very oppressed.
But imagine if we could change all that.
Feminism has. We now have people like Steve Shives and Kevin Logan, the kind of people that aliens would need to look twice at to identify as men. So feminism is all about free choice then, right? Be it have the vote, flap your love buns around in public, whatever you want. Well, I want to be a proper manly man, but this hypocritical ideology wants to berate me for that.
Imagine if you weren't considered any less of a man if you weren't to openly talk about your feelings or binge watch Scandal.
I had to look up what Scandal was. And given there appears to be no real men in this group, let me let you in on a little secret. Believe it or not, men do talk about their feelings. It usually happens after a few drinks and wondering why that bitch decided to cheat on you, but it happens.
Or take a beginner ballet class.
Alright guys, are you ready? 5, 6, 7, 8.
Ha! Gay!
Feminism is all about options.
You mean choices like deciding to be bat gender or bi-gender fluid? Or bog gender? A gender that lets you feel like a bog or a swamp or similar ecosystem. Cirque gender? I think I'm pronouncing that right. A gender that feels so good and magical and grand it's indescribable. The rest of us just call it a good ecstasy trip. Cloud gender? Cocoon gender? I'm not fucking with you, there are hundreds of these. So, are these the choices you were talking about? I'll leave a link to the most complete list of fuckery I could find.
You want to be a nurse, a teacher, or stay-at-home dad? No big deal. Stuffy gender roles say that a man has to provide.
I had to say, I had my skepticism, but that is some damn fine camera quality considering this was filmed in the 50s. Wait, this wasn't? Then what the fuck is he talking about? Okay, so they're still banging on about gender roles in the current year. And there are no gender roles. Believe it or not, some women and some men are happy with those roles. Think of them more as gender suggestions. But you're not legally fucking obligated to them. Do whatever you want with your life. If it's not illegal, people won't give a flying fuck.
Feminism says, who cares?
Yeah, so does everybody else on the fucking planet, genius. Feminism does not have the monopoly on not giving a shit about who does what job.
You're no less of a man if it's your wife that brings home the Tubmans.
You know, I'd have to agree with that. That's a disgusting tattoo, by the way, you should be ashamed. But I agree. Personally, I'd love to be a stay-at-home dad to a rich wife. I mean, think about it. You get to dick around all day, do a little bit of housework, cook some dinner. That shit's the life. Sign me up. I wouldn't care if people thought I was less of a man. That's a pretty sweet deal.
In the last 3 decades, we've seen a tremendous surge of women in the workplace, resulting in huge economic growth.
That, my good man, is a flat-out lie. Now, please give me a moment while I prove you completely wrong. This, my good fellow, is a graph showing the average growth, or lack thereof, of the American GDP since about 1980. I cut it there because your claim was in the past 30 years we've seen huge economic growth. This shows the GDP declining quite a bit actually, so you're wrong. I'll also link the source where I got this graph in the description below.
And with women running this place, we're actually talking about a healthy work-life balance.
I'd just like to take a moment to point out that every single person around that table is male. I feel this needs to be mentioned.
And now we have time for our hobbies. Hey Frank, need help with that pearl stitch?
Oh, trust me, Frank needs much more help than a pearl stitch. Frank needs to get laid.
Research shows that couples who split the chores at home actually have more and better sex.
Oh, what a surprise. No studies linking to support that. Just links to their various social media pages. The surprise is overwhelming. But no, I imagine there's very little correlation between housework and sex. Except those sexy French maid outfits. God, I love those.
The more we can dismantle our rigid ideas about how women look, act, and exist in the world, the more we should be able to do the same for men.
This, coming from the most typically butch guy I've ever seen in my entire life. The kind of guy who'd twist you into a balloon animal if you tried to steal his hat. The guy flexing so hard I'm amazed his arms haven't burst. Yeah, he wants to get rid of that typical hot male stereotype. That acting wasn't forced at all. 100% legitimate.
Right, bros?
Hey, did you guys know that countries that are closest to gender equality also have the happiest people?
Oh yeah, that's typical bar talk. So basically, the West. The happiest people are the people in the West, where we have actual gender equality. Just breathe, it's almost over.
Guys, look!
You accept this, Rose?
Oh, it's a gay bar. That makes sense now. You know, just lately I've been hearing quite a lot about fake news. And I'm curious what qualifies, because the Huffington Post is generally considered a legitimate news outlet despite it having a worse reputation than Sweeney Todd's barbershop. No cited sources, blatantly wrong information. This to me is fake news. So lovely viewers, what would you be willing to do to get out of a feminist ballet lesson? I'll leave the answers that make me laugh the most at the end of my next video, and as always, thank you for your time.